As dawn broke, I knew one thing. I couldn't run from him. The more I tried, the closer he would come. And I was beginning to fear there might be no escape. The mark on my wrist pulsed faintly as I sat on my bed, staring at the rising sun. The warm light did little to chase away the chill in my chest. His voice still echoed in my mind, the haunting hint replaying over and over, "You remind me of her." By midday, my father had insisted we return to the elder. "We must know more," he said firmly. "This is no ordinary threat." His words only confirmed my fear that the prince was something far worse than any of us understood. The journey to the elder's home felt suffocating. The air was heavier, and the shadows seemed sharper, darker. I kept glancing over my shoulder, certain I would see his cold eyes staring back. When we reached the elder's home, he greeted us with a grim expression. "The shadows are restless," he said. "They are growing stronger, more aggressive." My father explained everything, the prince's words, the mark, and the nightmares that had stolen my sleep. The elder listened intently before his eyes locked on mine. "You must face him," he said quietly. "The curse he carries binds him to you. Running will only make him stronger." My stomach dropped. "Face him? How? He's not even human anymore." The elder's face was unreadable. The prince's curse was born of betrayal. "You must learn the truth of his past. Only then will you find the key to sever his hold over you." I stared at the elder in disbelief. His past? What truth? How am I supposed to find that out? The elder handed me a small, rusted amulet. "This will help you see what you cannot. But be warned, the shadows will not let you uncover his secrets easily. They will fight to protect him." The amulet felt cold in my hands, sending a shiver through my body. "And if I fail?" I asked, my voice trembling. The elder's silence was louder than any answer. As we left his home, the air grew colder. The sun was still high, but the shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally long, creeping toward me like they were alive. I clutched the amulet tightly, feeling its icy weight against my palm. That night, I lay awake, the amulet around my neck. My father had barred all the windows and lit every lamp in the house, but it didn't stop the shadows. They slid under the doors, curling in the corners of the room, watching me. And then, I heard it, the whisper. "Do you think you can stop me?" I froze, clutching my wrist where the mark burned fiercely. The shadows thickened, and his figure emerged, tall and menacing, his eyes colder than the grave. "You're digging into things that don't concern you," he said, his voice like ice. "You will regret it." I didn't dare move, but my hand tightened around the amulet. As his hand reached out toward me, I felt a surge of heat from the charm. It glowed brightly, and the prince recoiled with a snarl. The light forced him back into the shadows, his voice lingering like a chilling echo. "This is far from over." The room fell silent, but I knew he wasn't gone. I had seen the fear in his eyes, and I knew the amulet had power that terrified him. But why? What was he hiding? The elder's words haunted me as I sat by the window, clutching the amulet. I turned it over in my hands, feeling its cold surface pulse faintly against my skin. "If this is my only chance," I whispered to myself, "I have to use it." I sat cross-legged on the floor, the amulet glowing faintly in the candlelight. The elder had said it would help me see the prince's past, but he hadn't explained how. I closed my eyes, focusing on the cold weight around my neck, and whispered, "Show me the truth." At first, nothing happened. Then, a strange chill spread through the room, extinguishing the candles one by one. Darkness closed in around me, and the amulet's glow intensified, bathing the room in an eerie light. Suddenly, I wasn't in my home anymore. I stood in a vast, desolate field under a blood-red sky. The air was thick with the sound of whispers, dozens of voices calling out, pleading, accusing. Ahead of me, I saw a young man standing alone, his back turned. He wore the royal robes of a prince, his posture proud but tense. I took a hesitant step forward, and the whispers grew louder. "Who betrayed you?" I asked aloud, though my voice trembled. The man turned sharply, and I gasped. It was him, the prince. But he looked different. His face was younger, unscarred by the darkness that now consumed him, and his eyes were filled with pain, not malice. Before I could speak again, the scene shifted violently. The ground beneath me cracked, and I fell into a swirling abyss of shadow. I landed in a throne room. The walls were lined with torches, their flames flickering weakly against the encroaching darkness. At the center of the room stood the prince, now older, his face hardened and his eyes cold. Around him, figures knelt, their faces contorted in fear. "You betrayed me," he said, his voice echoing with fury. "And now, you will pay." I watched in horror as the prince raised his hand, and the shadows around him surged forward, consuming the kneeling figures. Their screams pierced the air, fading into the void as the darkness swallowed them whole. The prince turned, and for a moment, his gaze locked onto mine. "You shouldn't be here," he growled. I clutched the amulet, its glow growing weaker as the shadows closed in around me. "Why are you doing this? What happened to you?" His expression flickered, a moment of anguish breaking through the cold mask. "They took everything from me," he said softly. "And now, I take everything from them." The room began to shake, the shadows clawing at the edges of my vision. I felt myself being pulled back, the amulet dragging me away from the prince's world. When I opened my eyes, I was back in my room, gasping for air. The amulet was ice cold against my skin, its glow completely extinguished. But I wasn't alone. The prince stood at the foot of my bed, his figure more solid than ever before. His eyes burned with fury, and the shadows around him writhed like living things. "You've seen too much," he hissed. "Now, you'll pay the price." The room erupted into chaos as the shadows surged forward, knocking over furniture and extinguishing every source of light. I screamed, clutching the amulet as its faint glow returned, pushing the darkness back just enough to keep me safe. But I knew it wouldn't be enough. The prince's voice rang out, cold and unyielding. "Run all you like, but you can't escape me. The more you fight, the stronger I become." And then, with a final surge of shadows, he disappeared, leaving the room in ruins. As dawn broke, I sat trembling on the floor, the amulet clutched tightly in my hands. The prince's words echoed in my mind, and I realized the elder had been right. The truth wasn't just dangerous, it was deadly. And now, I had no choice but to face it.